Maybe it's in there. Okay.
Okay, so now it's recording.
Waiting.
So welcome everyone to our Arbor Day event.
Nikki,
This is the second virtual one.
Nikki,
I will.
wait.
You're recording. I can see there's a little icon there, Graham.
Mhm.
It's working.
Good to go.
And
All right. I'm good.
Veronique is here, our librarian. Okay, so we're gonna have our Arbor Day event, and we have a number of different people that are gonna talk about trees. And we're gonna start off with welcoming Keith Igley.
See everyone, if even virtually. I see some people I haven't seen in a long time. Hi, Jan. It's been a while since we've been in a meeting together. Good to see you. And Arbor Day is particularly relevant for me because starting about yesterday, I can tell you that tree pollen is out. I have been scratching my eyes for about 2 days now. So it's definitely spring in Ottawa, and as I say, the trees are in bloom. It's funny. I passed a lady this morning when I was walking my dog, and she was someone who got hit in the Craig Henry area pretty badly by the tornado and lost a lot of trees. And the city has planted about 4 or 5 trees. She has a big corner lot to replace what she had lost. And she was out there just kind of staring. And I said, "What are you waiting for?" She said, "I'm looking for the leaves." So a lot of interest in sort of replacing what we lost during the tornado. A lot of positive expectation for what's going to happen. And we all know it's going to take years to replace some of the really huge trees that we did lose, and we lost some in in Tanglewood as well, and in Trent Arlington. I remember going by and after the tornado in Tanglewood and seeing that a lot of the trees had gone down by the park, but luckily had gone down in such a way that they had caused minimal damage to surrounding homes and what have you, whereas in some of the other communities they'd come down a lot of the time on people's homes, or in some cases even on people's vehicles that were parked in the driveway or by the side of the road. So I think it's really important that in our community we recognize the importance of new growth and new plantings in our area. As I say, everybody in this meeting knows how badly hit our end of town was, in particular by the tornado, and how many trees we lost in those 3 communities. So I think it's really neat that your community has decided to make this an annual event and to talk about the importance of replanting and the importance of caring for the trees that we do have. And I know in a perfect world, we'd probably be standing in front of a tree and planting it right now. And unfortunately, we can't do that. And we're probably still a ways off when we can gather together again as a group. But we're going to get there. And I'll just end off. I would be remiss, because in addition to being your counselor, I'm also the chair of public health. You get a chance to get a vaccine, take it. Take it as soon as you can. Take whichever one is offered. Tell your friends that you've done it. We have to normalize this, and we have to get everybody. We're not going to vaccinate our way out of this current wave, but every shot we get in someone's arm is like a brick in a wall towards resolving this issue. And I watched some news yesterday about in the US how they seem to have plateaued in their vaccination rollout. And instead of the numbers going up for people to get vaccinated, the numbers are going down. And it's not because everybody in the US is vaccinated. So we need to do it. We need to talk about it. We need to normalize it. So anything that anybody can do in their own communities to share the message and tell their friends and neighbors that they've done it and is important. So I thank everybody for sticking together through this and focusing on that common message that we need to get through this, and we do that by getting the vaccine, but also, unfortunately, by having to continue to have events like this, rather than seeing Nikki and Graham and everybody else in person and out at the field house. We have to do it this way. But I want to thank Nikki and Graham and George and everybody else on the committee for continuing to do events like this and continuing to do outreach. And it's very important, and you keep the community together by doing that. And I know I appreciate it as the council, and I know that the members of your community appreciate, whether it's your competitions to see who has the greatest and best Halloween decorations or the best snowmen or what it is. So please keep doing it. And fingers crossed that this time next year, it will be your third Arbor Day celebration, but it will not be virtual. It will be live and in person. It will have a real tree, and we'll be planting it. I'm thinking, since we've done 2 in the virtually, Nikki, we're going to have at least 3 trees that we're going to plant. And so we'll need to do that. But again, thank you all for doing this. And I see we've got Ottawa Public Library is here as well to do a presentation. So thank you for coming out and being part of this as well. Okay, I'm going to turn it back to, I'm not sure if it's Nikki or Graham, but turn it back to the committee. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I think one of the things I want to announce right off the bat is we just got notice last Thursday that we will have a summer job for, I think, 8 or 10 weeks. And the person who will be hired will be doing a tree inventory of our community. So it's another brick on the side of giving an emphasis to the importance of trees.
That's excellent news, Graham. That's excellent news.
That's cool. Okay, so I'm going to pass it on to Victoria, who is from Tree Ottawa, and she has a presentation for us.
Thank you, I do. So I would just quickly bring up my presentation here. All right. I mean, hopefully everyone can see this, but as well as good. So hello, my name is Victoria, and I am from Ecology Ottawa. And I'm going to be briefly speaking about what it is that we do, and as well as some information about trees, be it maybe you're looking for a different type of species to plant, or just wanting to know more and bring it into your knowledge base there. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So first of all, Ecology Ottawa, what do we do? Well, we're a non-for-profit, grassroots, and volunteer-driven organization. And so with that, we're working with many different people from the community, be it small organizations, big ones, individuals, or even organizations themselves. And we work to make Ottawa the green capital of Canada. And so with urbanization becoming more and more evident, it's important that we look out for the community, but also the environment that does sustain human life and everything else around it. And we do this, or we do our work actually in a number of ways. One of them is being community outreach. And so with that, again, we look for seeing who is also sharing this interest of wanting to be more green, wanting to help make everything more sustainable and also achievable. And we do have 3 departments of which we then focus our work that are geared towards, which is the active city, which focuses on transportation issues. As we know, that's as modern day society, we still need our transportation, which is important, but also making sure if there's a way to not only make it accessible for everyone, but also minimizing our own environmental footprint or economic footprint. And the renewable city is combating climate change. Very evident that's going on with everything in today's world news. And then the living city, which focuses on everything related to trees, biodiversity, green spaces, and water. So perhaps if someone's interested in volunteering or wanting to know more about how can they help, let's say, save a particular habitat, checking out a biodiversity program, for instance, may be of interest to you. Okay, so I have a mini questionnaire for you folks at home and for those who are with me today. So my question is, blank is the leading cause for why 99% of ash trees are gone in North America. So I asked those who are here, or you can also type it into the comment section, one of the following answers. Is it A, soil erosion, B, deforestation, C, the emerald ash burrow, D, pollution, or E, gusty winds? So which of these ones would be the leading cause for why our ash trees are essentially being destroyed? I'll just wait a few seconds to see.
How do you want us to do that? By writing it down in chat or?
You can write it down in chat if you like. You can use the chat function. You could also just shout it out if you know on top of your head.
I was just making a big C signal by my head, but I'm little. I could see Keith doing the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings me to the next slide. You are correct. It is C, it's the emerald ash burrow. Looks very much similar to your crickets, I may say, and very pretty, hence giving that little emerald little jam there. So actually what this insect is, I can click it, okay. So the emerald ash burrow is the leading cause for why Ottawa's trees, for instance, are disappearing. About 60% of the green canopy is essentially being destroyed because of this insect. It's not a native species here in North America. It's actually an Asian species coming from various parts of East Asia, being, for instance, China, Japan, Mongolia, but not limited to these areas. So this is why it's important when we are traveling, let's say abroad by plane. You often hear from customs saying you can't bring certain foods, you can't bring certain seeds because invasive species can come with them on the emergency holiday. But as well, it doesn't just include when it comes to traveling by plane. It also involves camping or having to go to a mountain bike area because the area of which you're going to could have some invasive species. This is why we're asked to wipe down our equipment, or also don't take any firewood from our houses that we have into a provincial park, because next you know, we might be in trouble for seeing those trees disappear. But the emerald ash burrow's life expectancy is actually 2 to 3 weeks, with the rare instances of a year to a year of maturity. And during those 2 to 3 weeks, females can lay up to 65 to 90 eggs, which, you know, it's quite a lot, but it only takes a few weeks, so 2 to 2.5 weeks to hatch. So you're thinking about the amount of time as quickly as days go by now, we may see these insects more often than we should. So I was actually quite interested because before I used to think that these markings on a tree, when I saw it, used to be water and saying, oh, look, you can see the water coming from the roots up to the trees to where it needs to go. This is actually the work of the larvae. So the damage mostly done to trees happens to be around mid-May. And what they do essentially is that when they grow, they get hungry. So they start to eat away at the nutrients on the bark. They start very close during the winter time, close to the heart of the tree. And then as the summertime comes, they become more visible on the outside. So we need to make sure that we protect our trees so that we don't lose most of them. And we know when it comes to tree planting, it can be quite some time for them to actually grow. So I want to bring into discussion about the bashwood tree, which is the other form of the Tilia americana. Now, you might see these ones, you may not. Oftentimes, you can see them from southern parts of Manitoba all the way to New Brunswick. So you may see them in your local area. The things about these trees is that they're actually really good to be a supplementation to your regular maple or oaks, in the sense that you can actually have them planted on a sidewalk. So because they are quite narrow rooted, it actually makes a good conditions to have them. But also because it's a light wooded tree and it's with odorless scents, it makes it quite useful in regards to its own purpose. So for instance, people may say, oh, well, I'm having a hard time sleeping. Maybe there's a natural remedy I could use. Well, if you take the flowers from these trees and use it into a bath or into a sort of tea, it actually is a remedy to help with that. So maybe another reason why to have a tree like this into your own yard or in the public green space. So I also want to talk just a little bit about its little, characteristics. So unlike the common native trees that have pines or oak leaf, as well as maple, the silhouette of a heart shape is what makes it quite unique, and also the type of flowers or the buds that they bring. And so it does flower from May to July with its fragrance, making it irresistible to bees, butterflies, and other types of animals. So if you want to see rabbits, for instance, or even white-tailed deers, this might be a sign to try and get a sapling of this. But having that said too, with those animals, they can become a little bit troublesome when it's eating away at your plant. And these trees do last very long, up to 150 years and so. And so conditions for the tree, should anyone be interested in wanting to get one. So there are suitable conditions for it, of course. Needs to be in a ripened area where the soil is rich and moist. It can be directly planted into the soil as it is a sapling, or maybe having a mixed container. So putting it in an old disposable, let's say egg carton can work. The height of the tree can be from 60 to 100 feet in height and 2 to 4 feet in diameters. Sun exposure, it does get in full and also parts of sun. 25% of the tree seedlings do grow better with exposure to sun. Shade is good, but you also got to remember that it may hinder the growth of the trees and use that vitamin C. So completely up to you. It does get in both. If you want to grow more faster, perhaps having a direct sunlight would be best. And then lastly, the types of roots in trees. So this one is actually, oh, is that a question? No. Okay. So the root of the trees, because the roots of the trees is also important to know in regards to the spacing as to where to put it. It is a taproot rather than a fibrous. So in that regards, the roots do tend to grow out more downwards rather than horizontally. So making it a good spacing for where someone would like to plant, let's say, another small deciduous tree or even a flower bed. I want to ask a next question. Maybe the folks in the audience want to take a guess as to what type of tree that these leaves would belong to. Again, you can either shout it out in the chat box, or write it on the chat box, or you could say it out loud if you like. I'll just wait for a few seconds to see. It's red, has a little bit kind of small oak looking shape. Wait for a few more seconds. Alrighty, so this one actually is the Japanese red maple, particularly it's the ash scarlet. Now this one I particularly love. I have this tree in my own backyard. It should be noted though that this isn't a native local plant, hence the name Japanese red maple. But back in the 19th centuries, individuals from Asia have brought over these trees, and they're not invasive species per se. They had brought over these trees for people in North America to enjoy. And so they get different colors from being vibrant red to green and red, and even a little bit of oranges sometimes. So this tree is absolutely beautiful. It can be a small shrub at times. It comes in different sizes, and it can grow to be quite large. Despite its beautifulness and that definite head hurting grandeur, it is quite a hard tree to plant. So this is actually, if you look at the picture here, this is my Japanese red maple in my garden. So it's a difficult plant in the sense that you need to be careful where to plant it, and as well the maintenance of the tree itself. So for instance, a lot of individuals would say that they can use some hedge cutters or some shears. This one does not particularly like it. You need to get a smaller type of hand tool to not actually fracture too much of the branches and the leaves. So the height for these trees, again, can be 6 feet, or small trees can be 6 feet. And going back to the idea of needing to be careful where to select the location, because if it's too hot, for instance, the leaves can burn and crisp and be more condensed. If it's too cold, then this can potentially kill off the tree. Too windy as well can make the tree not have too many not only have too many branches, but leaves as well. But let's say you do live in an area that's wind is consistently an issue, having some sort of either wrapping around it would help its growth. Okay, sorry, just looking at the chat box there. But having that said, though, these once they are planted, these trees do come back, so you don't have to keep rebuying it from the nursery or rebuying seeds. So in terms of its shading, full to partly shade, they do good in either or. It depends also as well if you want to have trees that are bright red, it's best to have them that exposed to the sun versus the ones you want to have a little bit of green, a little bit of red, partial shade would be good. And just in case you want to know as to, well, the types of planting in the ground, it can be 6 inches deep with rich soil, of course. You can include mulch if you like, that's completely optional. They don't like heavy water. Some trees, some plants really like to have their roots soaked. This one doesn't like it too much. I mean, average, you can do it from a week to 2 times in a week. Other than that, the rule of thumb that my parents and myself go by is that once you see the soil start to crack, that's a sign that the roots are actually trying to look for oxygen or even different moisture in the soil. So that might be a good time to then water your plants. And then fertilization is important. For this one, you don't need to do it right away. You can wait until the second growing season, so the year after, for you to then apply some fertilizer. All right, so before I hand it over to the next speaker, I do want to thank you guys for listening to the presentation for Ecology Ottawa. Every year we do have this event called the Tree Giveaway. So how this works is that, again, we partner up with those from the community. It can be individual, maybe a small business, a big business, organizations of all sorts. And what we do is essentially hand out varieties of trees. I have to disclose that the Japanese red maple isn't one of the local trees that we give away. But if you're interested, we do have an event calendar that does state where the next event is going to be happening close to you. This event calendar can be found at the Ecology Ottawa website. And if you're interested, you just have to sign up, saying about which area you're going to be receiving the tree, and an individual can get 25 saplings. So if a parent, or say my parents want to go, mom and dad, they each get 25 trees for a total of 50. If anyone else is interested in, let's say, volunteering, that being giving the trees physically away to people, helping tree preparation, maybe want to get some volunteer hours done, feel free to message me at the Tree Ottawa email just down here, treeottawa at, I can read the notes here, at ecologyottawa.ca. You can write into myself or just fully write in. And without further ado then, I do thank you once more, and I'll hand it back to Nikki.
Thank you. Okay, we were going to have a tree giveaway as part of this event, but because of the restrictions, that will have to wait until we're allowed to give out trees. So stay tuned to our website, and we will post when we will have a giveaway in our neighborhood. So the next person that I'd like to present is from Let's Bike Ottawa, and that's Jen, is here to tell us all about that program.
Well, I'm actually from Enviro Center, but Let's
Okay.
Bike is one of our programs. And you know what? I'm going to switch up what I'm going to talk about a little bit. I will tell you a bit about Let's Bike, but since we're focusing on trees and I do a lot of work with trees, I thought I'd just tell you some fun facts about trees and how that even ties into Let's Bike Ottawa and why the heck am I here anyways at a tree event. So one thing you should know is that the city of Ottawa is an amazing place to ride a bike and walk. And one of the things that makes it awesome is that it's got a fairly good tree canopy, and trees are really important to our urban landscape to keep our heat island effect down. It provides shade when people are walking along or biking along. Trees are really, really important. So you'll see that the city's doing a good job replacing as many trees as they can. We have good folks like in Ecology Ottawa sticking as many trees in the ground as they can. Trees make a huge difference to our city. One of the programs I work on is a stormwater management program, and you guys are actually in the Pinecrest Creek watershed. So your watershed that all of your homes are in right now, everything that leaves your driveway goes into the stormwater sewers and goes directly to Pinecrest Creek and to the Ottawa River untreated. So when you wash your car in your driveway, or you see little floating bits of garbage going down, and just huge amounts of water going down the street after those big storms, that's a lot of water that gets untreated all the way up to Hunt Club. That watershed goes from the Ottawa River all the way to Hunt Club, goes from just a little bit west, just a little east of Maryvale, all the way over to Pinecrest area. It's very, very big. And so through that program, I care a lot about trees, because every tree absorbs so much water. A fully grown tree can absorb up to 20,000 liters of water a year. And when we can get water to stay in place in our neighborhood and stay on our own property, it gets absorbed into the trees, and then it actually goes up into the atmosphere through biotranspiration is the name of the word. So trees are super important for our rivers, believe it or not. And the other thing is, it really helps our air quality. A tree can absorb about 50 pounds of carbon dioxide and trap it in itself every year. So that really helps. If you think of the millions and millions of trees that are in our city, every single tree really matters. So I did come to talk about Let's Bike, which my little biking program, because if you know me at all, you know I really love riding my bike and I bike everywhere all the time. So I'll just quickly tell you about that, but I just really wanted to make you understand that no matter what you're talking about, trees are so important to our cities in general. And now I'm going to tell you how they fit in with transportation a little bit, even very quickly, because I really didn't mean to tell you any of that other stuff, and now I've used up all my time. So there you go. So Enviro Center, this is, can you see that okay? Can you give me a thumbs up or something? Okay, great. So Enviro Center is an environmental nonprofit. We've been around for about 20 years, and we work on programs that inspire and offer solutions to communities and businesses and folks like you guys, just to work toward a more sustainable lifestyle and reducing our carbon in our city. So for 10 years, we ran a program called Bike to Work Month. I don't know why my slide's not changing. And with the pandemic, we actually changed it because we don't have a building anymore to bike to. So we decided we're not biking anywhere. Lots of people aren't biking anywhere. So our new program is called Let's Bike. And Let's Bike is a program that anyone, whether you're biking for transportation or you're biking for fun or you're biking to go off and join the Olympics one day, you can go on, you register, it's free, it's super, super simple. You just put in like a random name, we don't actually care. And then you put in your postal code, because your first 3 letters, because we do care about that. And then you go in and you tell us how far you biked. And then over the course of May, you're going to get a little tracker like this, and it's going to say, oh, okay, the first 10 days that I've biked 65 kilometers so far. I've averted 16 kilos of greenhouse gas emissions, and I've saved $39 compared to driving my car for that same distance. And then we do like a whole citywide total. We did like a test of this campaign in September just to see how it would go. Just in our little test, we got over 1,000 participants, and we had 88 teams. You can start little teams of your family or your colleagues or whatever you want. We logged about 120,000 kilometers, and 30 tons of carbon dioxide were averted. And we got 128 people to try riding their bike for the first time, or first time in a long time. So it's really meant to encourage people. We have a website. you can go on and get up-to-date resources and videos about how to go through a roundabout. What's a bike box anyways? How do you use the rack and roll? So all that stuff's in like a handy one-stop shop. Most people sign up because as soon as you sign up and you've logged one kilometer, we don't care how far you bike. If you bike 1 kilometer or 500 kilometers, we think you're awesome because you rode your bike. And then we give away really great prizes. It's completely random. We get really wonderful, generous donations from our bike shops and art galleries and normally restaurants, but we haven't even asked them this year. So really this year it's the bike shops. They're doing really well. And then some other really fun prizes. And we just give them away just to say thank you for riding your bike and giving it a try. So the website is letsbike.ca. We also changed it. We used to offer our workshops primarily to workplaces, and now we don't. So now we actually are partnering. I don't know if we're partnering with you guys. I should have checked first. Anyways, you guys can, I think probably Councillor Eglai has signed up. If not, he should, for a free workshop. So we are offering free workshops for community partners, and then they're public so that anyone can join them across the whole city at a convenient time. And it helps us, you know, get other organizations to have their voice amplified. I know we are doing one with Ecology Ottawa. I know we're doing one with the public library again. Lots of councillors have signed up. If you haven't signed up yet, contact Mandy or me, because we only have 25 of them and they go really fast. So because we only have that many times.
I have requested one, but it's not set up yet.
Okay, well, as long as you're in the triage, you're probably good. Yeah, so we'll be doing this year, the workshops are urban cycling, which is how to bike safely in the city. I do one, so I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm on the board of directors for the Historical Society of Ottawa, just to add to my super coolness hat. And so I do one that's called Discover Your City by Bike, which is just weird and wonderful and random, interesting, quirky places to bike to that are lots of people don't know about. So I kind of do sort of a merge thing. And then we're going to do our bike maintenance one. So that was one of those tests we did last year, and we tried to do like a video bike maintenance. It was truly not awesome. So this time we're not doing that again because like you can't see the pieces, right? And like trying anyway. So we're trying a new thing where we're actually going to do like kind of like how Ed Lawrence has his call-in show for plants. We're going to do that every week for bike problems. So it'll be like a bike maintenance, ask an expert, talk to Rod, he's going to sort you out. So
I
that's
think that's the one I requested.
Oh, good. Yeah,
The bike
that'll be a
maintenance one.
popular one. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we're up to. We've got lots of great projects going on. We're incredibly, strangely, wonderfully busy, which is great. Even though it's a funny, wacky world, it's still, people really haven't changed how much they care about our city. So that is pretty great. So anyway, that's it for me. I'll stop sharing, I think.
Thank you, Jen.
My pleasure.
Okay, so
I should tell you that I'll probably go after the presentations part, only because my house still really stinks. So my dog got sprayed by a skunk this morning, and I got a situation going on back here. So I'll stay as long as I can, but I think.
well, thank you for joining us.
But I'll stay for a little while longer anyway.
Okay.
If I sneak away, you know, it's not because I wouldn't rather be with you.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll pass it on to the next person on my agenda. And that is our librarian.
Yes, it's me. So my
There
name
she
is
is,
Veronique.
Yes.
Yes, Veronique, and I work at the Ottawa Public Library. I'm the new supervisor at Emerald Plaza. So nice to meet all of you. I got a request to read some poems about trees, and I also wanted to talk to you about our new recovery model. So I'll start with my first poem, and I thought it was really, with a presentation about Tree Ottawa and how to plant trees, that it was perfect. So my poem is called Tree Planting by Colin Morton, and it's from the book Heartwood. So there is no pictures to show you. Sorry, next poem will have some. So it's Heartwood, Poems for the Love of Trees. So tree planting. Foot on spade, turn up the earth, then slip the seedling home, move on 3-step and begin again. Stomping, digging, planting trees all weekend long. We scout spread out along a rocky ridge of earth that defeated settlers decade ago. Tall trees would grow from our slip, the grown-ups said, and returning again. Years later, we'll find it home. To deer, fox, birds, home on the range, it's a long and winding road, we sang again. And again, as we stooped to the earth and tucked under the scrawny slips of seedling poplar trees. Only we never did go back. We left the trees to the elements and drove home, bringing a handful of leftover slips I planted along the side of the garage in earth hard as clay. Once again, I stooped and dug, again tucked under trees, the size of my hand, watered the earth to make their roots a home. Then I forgot them. Long, dry weeks went by, and the slip, turning brown and brittle, slipped my mind. When I looked again, only one survived. A long, gangly sapling, less tree than weed, but it claimed a home on that stretch of packed earth. So this was Tree Planting by Colin Morton. And I really hope that your future trees will not end dead like those one. Okay, and our next part, I prepared a really nice PowerPoint, and with technology, I cannot present it because I have problems with my computer. Yay! But okay, so Ottawa Public Library started a new project in January 1st about our material recovery model. So we eliminated late fees. Since January 1st, we no longer charging late fees for items that are overdue or processing fees for lost items. So these changes is to eliminate the barriers and make it more accessible and equitable for everyone. There's also very little evidence that late fees increase the quantity or timelines of library return. So we hope that with that new process, families or people who have a tendency to forget their books can still use the library at the fullest. So all other fees still exist. So we still have restocking fees if you order books but don't pick up, photocopying, non-resident fees, referral for collection agency, but there is no new fees. We also made a change for the renewal amount. We used to have unlimited renewal, but we did change it for a maximum of 5 renewal. That way we can have those books back or DVDs and be able to share it with more people. So the books are now renewed automatically when possible. So that's a really nice thing to do when you forget to renew your books. But the only thing is you can't renew if there is a hold on it. So that's a iffy thing. So you might be wondering what happens if I decide not to return the books or document ever. So what they do is after 21 days of the due date, we mark it as lost, and then you can't use your library card when it's over $25. So most of our documents are more than 25. And once it's blocked, you either can pay the fine or return the document and you're free to go. So we are planning that it won't be affecting the holds, so you won't have to worry about the waiting time. It will stay the same. And we still hope to see you at the library, even if we are currently closed. We are still doing curbside, so I do encourage you to place a hold on documents either by calling or on our website. And we also have a really nice website with a lot of electronic streaming services that can be very useful, and you can also make a temporary card online. Did anyone have a question about my small presentation? No? Good.
I'm just going to
Didn't
say
really-
Barrow Center loves the library. We promote the library all the time because it's one of those, you don't need more stuff things. Like libraries are so
Exactly.
important, and it really reduces the amount of stuff we all need. So yay for bringing the library today.
Exactly. It's always better to share. So my next poem is by Burley Hurchin, and it's called Trees. This one has pictures, so I'll be able to show you, and hopefully you'll be able to see. So Trees, poem by Burley Hurchin. Okay, each trees offer a story, a clue, a dance that makes it its very own self. Maples sing to the heavens, reaching out. She offers her precious sap to celebrate the return of the light and sweeten the last day of winter. Okay. Aspen, tall and graceful, dances on her tippy toes. Her golden leaves, like castanet, shimmers in the breeze. Oak stands strong, rooted deeply in the earth, his mighty branches held out just so, palms up, to receive the joy of birds. The silly palm, plain and skinny, doesn't have one single branch. She saves all her leaves for her most amazing hat. Shy Pussy Willow takes center stage 1 week in spring when kitten velvet buds adorn her modest twigs. Apple trees, wise and gnarled, bend low, his branch weighted down with round red fruit and age. Until little red bud play hide and seek in bare branches wood, until pink purple giggles burst forth and give her hiding place away. Spruce in blue porcupine armor aims for the sky like an arrow his heart soars. Dogwood bows beside the walk, welcoming the guest. He offered treats of silver trays, canapes of sunshines and pollen. Sycamore, the fashion queen, wears a jigsaw puzzle gown and big flashy leaves. Fuzzy round bubbles dangs from her ears. White pine, unruly uncle, large and messy, shirt tail flying, button a kilter, shaggy hair unkept, he laughed too loud. Willow dance in her narrow kimono with elegant sweeping sleeve, wafting in gentle winds. Birch, when other trees wear leaves leafless black, strewed in royal ermine robes. And last but not least, Sequoia holds memories of the tribe of trees, telling tales from another age before the time of saw. So this was poems by Verily Hutton about trees. So we decided poems because it's Poetry Month, and we have lots of books, poetry about trees, but also lots of books about trees in general and how to take care of trees. So that could be really useful for your future tree. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that's all the presentations that we have. Next, we have some games. And I was told that Miriam, do you have a game for us?
Yes, I have. The first, hi everyone. I am Mariam Krishan. I work a program facilitator in Iraq. I am excited to participating for this event. Can I share my play? Okay. Here, just a moment. Okay. Just a moment.
You should be able to share your screen.
Okay.
Does she need to turn up her
Here
volume?
we go. Yep.
I was gonna say, Miriam, if you, I mean, I don't know for everyone else, I'm kind of having a hard time hearing you.
There we are. Okay. So to play this game,
Yes. You can see now?
mhm,
Just
we're going to need to
go,
join.
yes, and put this is game pin 7659852, and I can see all of you.
So either open another screen other than the Zoom
Yes, exactly.
or use a different device and go
You can, yeah,
to
in phone or yes, yeah.
go to kahoot.it.
www.kahoot, yes, me too.
Yeah.
First one, Victoria.
Okay. There we go. I'm in.
Yes,
So are you getting in yourself or is Miriam adding you in?
No, I added myself on my phone.
Oh,
So either go to a different screen and minimize the Zoom meeting,
Yes.
no.
or use your another device to log in to the website of kahoot.it, and then you can join. I've joined as Sunshine. You can also like have the Zoom meet, if you're using it on the same device, you have the Zoom meeting on one side of your screen and the game on the other side of your screen, that you can see the questions in the Zoom meeting, because on the website, you won't see the questions. You'll only see the answers. And you have to choose on the game the answers.
And
So is there anyone else that wants to join before we start?
Yes. 2 person, I think.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's 9 people in our meeting.
Yes, without me.
I put the number in. And what do I do next?
Then you put in your nickname. It'll ask for a nickname.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, there you are.
Person, I think.
We're just missing.
Victoria is here. Noor is here. Ola is here.
Alan. Hi, Alan.
Hi,
Yes, exactly.
Are you going to join the game?
I don't know.
Do you only have one device?
Well, I have the, I'm on my phone, my cell phone.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to see the game and the
That's
Zoom
correct.
meeting at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just listening.
So you can give your answers vocally.
Okay.
I can?
You can answer the questions, but you won't be able to punch it into the game.
No, I won't.
Just tell your answers to the rest of the group.
Okay.
Okay, so
Could I start? Can I start?
Miriam can go ahead and press
Mm.
start.
Okay. Okay.
There we go.
Good. Correct answer.
Okay, Alan, can you open your chat? Maybe you can put
The
your
chat.
answer in the
I
chat.
got you. Mhm.
Okay, where's the chat icon?
I don't know. I've never joined a Zoom meeting on my phone.
Down the very bottom, right? Beside share screen. I don't know. in terms of
What is the
I-
one thing you can recycle? Choose cartons. Okay. Choose cartons. All right. What can we do in Earth Day? Plant trees. Yes. Correct answer. All of them. Next, what type of leaf in the Canadian flag? Maple leaf.
I see.
Yes.
Mhm.
Some of the questions are silly.
I clicked too quickly.
I thought the earth was flat.
Double point, yes. On Earth Day, we remind people to yes, all of above. That's right. Earth Day.
Okay.
True. Victoria.
Still in the lead.
Yes. The importance of Earth Day. This celebrative to help. Yes, true. What can be composed or turned out natural garden? Okay. Both answer to eggshells, banana peels. True or false question? Yes, true. Yes, bicycles.
Everyone got that one right. Mm.
motion.
No. That was an easy one.
No, third one. Virginia, second place, and first place, Victoria. Congratulations. And fourth, sunlight, I think, and fifth, Ola. That's all. Okay. stop.
That was good.
All of you.
Good game.
I got 18 out of 18.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam.
Thank you.
So I have
Finish now.
a YouTube on I'm gonna put this. Okay, so I'll present my screen and I will show this YouTube video on trees. It's called, it's an educational video for kids. So it's just a little one.
Is it for big kids or little kids?
Well, this one is for little kids, but it's cute, so I'll show it. This one.
We will watch it.
Is it share sound? Hear it? No.
Hello, do you know who I am? I am the Earth. Yes, that's right, the planet Earth. And I would like to talk to you about trees, as they are very important both for you and me, and all living things. Do you know how many trees there are on my surface? Almost 3 trillion. Yup, I said trillion. It is difficult to imagine such a large number. And it sounds like so many. But the truth is, we need even more because they are essential for our environment to remain healthy, as well as for you and me. Every year, 15 billion trees are cut down. It's crazy. When simply looking at a tree, we only observe a part of a complex and fascinating living thing. Underground, you can find the roots, and it is because of them that the tree sticks to the ground, while at the same time, they suck up the water and minerals found in the soil, allowing it to grow. These roots are also like hands, grabbing hold of the earth, avoiding it from being eroded by the wind and water. The water and all the nutrients it receives from its roots extend throughout the tree, through the inner part of the trunk, a true column for the tree top. This is where we find the tree's branches, which grow outwards in a similar fashion to the roots underground. Here is where the leaves sprout out, a fundamental element in all trees, as it is because of them that photosynthesis takes place, so they can feed. What does photosynthesis mean? Well, it's a fascinating chemical process. The water, enriched with minerals, reaches the leaves, and then, with the help of the sunlight and the chlorophyll, which is also responsible for the green color they receive, is mixed with carbon dioxide absorbed from the air through the leaves. Photosynthesis is essential for trees, but also is really important for all living things living close by, because it traps carbon dioxide, or CO2, which is one of the causes of the greenhouse effect that is making the temperatures rise all over the planet, meaning me, and that's why I'm so hot. During this process, the tree also expels oxygen, an essential part of the air we breathe. And there are many more benefits we can gain from trees. They're like tiny living planets, offering food and shelter to a multitude of different animals. Human beings get wood and fruit from trees. They help soften the wind strength and rain, as well as reduce air contamination, filtering it through the leaves and branches. And I am sure you have found relief under the shade of a tree on a very hot sunny day. Well, they do a similar thing to me. The forests are one of the best means I have to regulate the climate, thanks to their shade and ability to avoid water evaporation. As you can see, there are many good reasons to look after trees, and better yet, to plant them and help them grow strong and healthy. I suggest a very exciting idea. Encourage your parents to grow trees, for as you know, children can make a world of difference.
Grammarly does more than catch errors.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So is there anything more that anyone wanted to say before? Maybe I'll choose one more video.
Were they supposed to hand out trees to those who wanted one? Little seedlings?
That was part of this, but because of the lockdowns, we're not allowed to hand out the trees right now. But that will be posted on our website when we are allowed to hand out trees in the future, hopefully in the summer.
Now, will they eventually, will you eventually be able to pick up seedlings, or that's another thing for next year type of thing?
Did you want to speak to that, Victoria?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So good question. So right now we are looking to see for those, I mean, unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to cancel all of our May and April events for what's happening, the tree giveaways. Now, having that said, we're looking to see for those who we did have a solid and confirmed date, if they would like to still pick up the saplings from our office. Now that's still to be discussed with my team of supervisors where, I mean, if we have enough people who are interested in getting the trees, be it from the hosts or from participants as well, that we can try to work that out to see, okay, could we then give these saplings over to, let's say, Nikki, for instance, then for her to distribute should herself and other residents in the area would want it. Now we are hoping that come, like Nikki has said, like come in the summer months, like June or later on in August and September, when events could be held. Hopefully by that point, we can have a physical in-person event, and of course, adhering to the social distancing guidelines as well.
Now the trees, are they small, like shrubs, or and what variety do you offer? All different varieties, and do you get to pick?
So yeah, it's a good question. So the variety of trees, we don't have a guaranteed one as of right now, just because the garden center that we're in partnership with could go through some complications, which then comes up to us to having to say, hey, we were wrong about the list, and go back and forth between communications. But we have had in the past a different variety of spruce, oak trees, maples, and then as well as different shrubs and fruits plus nut bearing trees. So for those who don't necessarily want a 20-foot grown tall tree in the future, they can get the smaller shrubs and maybe find that easier to be planting with. The saplings does start off to be 1 foot to 1.5 foot size. That's including with the roots wrapped up in a covering wrap. So it's about the size of a palm. So one wouldn't need to, let's say, bring large trucks to come and bring the seedlings home. They're quite small and manageable.
Now, can you get flowering bushes or flowering trees?
We've had to look into that. I believe we're still in the works to see about what supply that looks like in terms of projections for the coming events. So I don't have the answer right now, but I can get back to you, let you know what that looks like. But yes, a lot of people have been inquiring about flowering trees.
Is a rose bush considered a flowering tree, or a shrub, or bush, or?
Right, because I mean, because of the names that people would say, oh, it's a rose bush, it's a bush. Technically, it would be a shrub. At least in my opinion, it would also be like a shrub tree because of also the amount that it grows in a period of time. It becomes to be quite of a miniature plant itself.
Now, do you provide those as part of the giveaway, or other flowering bushes?
So we do, sorry, Nick, I don't mean to take over, but we do have, I'll just quickly pull it up here. We do have plants going on for sale currently. That does have to do with pollinating, let's say, species and also insects. So for those who want to say plant bluebells, they could see our center to see if we have those in stock. I'll just share my screen. Sorry, my window's also open. I'll share my screen quickly, and I'll make sure to send over the link as well so Nikki can send forth on her webpage for those who may be interested. So here, so this is our pollen garden fundraiser. So for us, for instance, to be able to do the free tree giveaway event, we do also appreciate any donations happening. So we do have this pollination garden fundraiser that's happening. Plants are going to be on sale between, well, now until May 23rd, and orders would be available for pickup as well. And these are some of the plants I'll just quickly show you that are available. So to answer your question, we do have a variety of different ones that can be selected here. So I'll also forward the link to show you guys what they look like, and I can also just copy it here in the chat box just now. It's just to help paint an image. That is what we do have for now. Where is the chat box? Sorry.
Is it possible to send the link to Nikki or to someone?
Yes, I'll make sure to send it to Nikki, and then she can post it, and therefore everyone else could have access to the link and see for themselves. Just didn't know in chat what's the one, but yes, I'll make sure of that.
Great, thank you.
post it on the chat, and Nikki, it's there for you for distribution is the word I'm looking for.
Okay. Okay, so. I'm going to go back to here. And I'm just going to put on one more video, but this one's about 20 minutes long. And it's called How Trees Talk to Each Other. And it's a TED Talk. So, and that'll be just about all I have to present. So I'm going to share screen. And share sound is on. And there we go. Oh, the sound is off.
Imagine you're walking through a forest. I'm guessing you're thinking of a collection of trees, what we foresters call a stand, with their rugged stems and their beautiful crowns. Yes, trees are the foundation of forests, but a forest is much more than what you see. And today I want to change the way you think about forests. You see, underground there is this other world, a world of infinite biological pathways that connect trees and allow them to communicate, and allow the forest to behave as though it's a single organism. It might remind you of a sort of intelligence. How do I know this? Here's my story. I grew up in the forests of British Columbia. I used to lie on the forest floor and stare up at the tree crowns. They were giants. My grandfather was a giant too. He was a horse logger, and he used to selectively cut cedar poles from the inland rainforests. Grandpa taught me about the quiet and cohesive ways of the woods and how my family was knit into it. So I followed in Grandpa's footsteps. He and I had this curiosity about forests. And my first big aha moment was at the outhouse by our lake. Our poor dog Jigs had slipped and fallen into the pit. So Grandpa ran up with his shovel to rescue the poor dog. He was down there swimming in the muck. But as Grandpa dug through that forest floor, I became fascinated with the roots. And under that, what I learned later was the white mycelium, and under that, the red and yellow mineral horizons. Eventually, Grandpa and I rescued the poor dog. But it was at that moment that I realized that that palette of roots and soil was really the foundation of the forest. And I wanted to know more. So I studied forestry. But soon I found myself working alongside the powerful people in charge of the commercial harvest. The extent of the clear-cutting was alarming, and I soon found myself conflicted by my part in it. Not only that, the spraying and hacking of the aspens and birches to make way for the more commercially valuable planted pines and firs was astounding. It seemed that nothing could stop this relentless industrial machine. So I went back to school, and I studied my other world. You see, scientists had just discovered in the laboratory in vitro that one pine seedling root could transmit carbon to another pine seedling root. But this was in the laboratory, and I wondered, could this happen in real forests? I thought yes. Trees in real forests might also share information below ground. But this was really controversial, and some people thought I was crazy. And I had a really hard time getting research funding. But I persevered. And I eventually conducted some experiments deep in the forest, 25 years ago. I grew 80 replicates of 3 species, paper birch, Douglas fir, and western red cedar. I figured the birch and the fir would be connected in a below-ground web. But not the cedar, it was in its own other world. And I gathered my apparatus, and I had no money, so I had to do it on the cheap. So I went to Canadian Tire. And I bought some plastic bags and duct tape and shade cloth, a timer, a paper suit, a respirator. And then I borrowed some high-tech stuff from my university, a Geiger counter, a scintillation counter, a mass spectrometer, microscopes. And then I got some really dangerous stuff, syringes full of radioactive carbon-14 carbon dioxide gas, and some high-pressure bottles of the stable isotope carbon-13 carbon dioxide gas. But I was legally permitted. Oh, and I forgot some stuff. Important stuff, the bug spray, the bear spray, the filters for my respirator. Oh well. The first day of the experiment, we got out to our plot, and a grizzly bear and her cub chased us off. And I had no bear spray. But you know, this is how forest research in Canada goes. So we came back the next day, and Mama Grizzly and her cub were gone. So this time we really got started. And I pulled on my white paper suit, I put on my respirator, and then I put the plastic bags over my trees. I got my giant syringes, and I injected the bags with my tracer isotope carbon dioxide gases. First, the birch. I injected carbon-14, the radioactive gas, into the bag of birch. And then for fir, I injected the stable isotope carbon-13 carbon dioxide gas. I used 2 isotopes because I was wondering whether there was two-way communication going on between these species. I got to the final bag, the 80th replicate, and all of a sudden Mama Grizzly showed up again, and she started to chase me, and I had my syringes above my head, and I was swatting the mosquitoes, and I jumped into the truck, and I thought, this is why people do lab studies. I waited an hour. I figured it would take this long for the trees to suck up the CO2 through photosynthesis, turn it into sugars, send it down into their roots, and maybe, I hypothesized, shuttle that carbon below ground to their neighbors. After the hour was up, I rolled down my window, and I checked for Mama Grizzly. Oh good, she's over there eating her huckleberries. So I got out of the truck and I got to work. I went to my first bag with the birch. I pulled the bag off. I ran my Geiger counter over its leaves. Perfect. The birch had taken up the radioactive gas. Then, the moment of truth, I went over to the fir tree. I pulled off its bag. I ran the Geiger counter up its needles, and I heard the most beautiful sound. It was the sound of birch talking to fir. And birch was saying, hey, can I help you? And fir was saying, yeah, can you send me some of your carbon? Because somebody threw a shade cloth over me. I went up to cedar and I ran the Geiger counter over its leaves. And as I suspected, silence. Cedar was in its own world. It was not connected into the web interlinking birch and fir. I was so excited. I ran from plot to plot and I checked all 80 replicates. The evidence was clear. The C13 and C14 was showing me that paper birch and Douglas fir were in a lively two-way conversation. It turns out at that time of the year in the summer that birch was sending more carbon to fir than fir was sending back to birch, especially when the fir was shaded. And then in later experiments, we found the opposite, that fir was sending more carbon to birch than birch was sending to fir. And this was because the fir was still growing while the birch was leafless. So it turns out the two species were interdependent, like yin and yang. And at that moment, everything came into focus for me. I knew I'd found something big, something that would change the way we look at how trees interact in forests, from not just competitors, but to cooperators. And I had found solid evidence of this massive below-ground communications network, the other world. Now, I truly hoped and believed that my discovery would change how we practice forestry, from clear-cutting and herbiciding to more holistic and sustainable methods that were less expensive and more practical. What was I thinking? I'll come back to that. So how do we do science in complex systems like forests? Well, as forest scientists, we have to do our research in the forest, and that's really tough, as I've shown you. And we have to be really good at running from bears. But mostly, we have to persevere in spite of all the stuff stacked against us. And we have to follow our intuition and our experiences and ask really good questions. And then we got to gather our data and then go verify. For me, I've conducted and published hundreds of experiments in the forest. Some of my oldest experimental plantations are now over 30 years old. You can check them out. That's how forest science works. So now I want to talk about the science. How were paper birch and Douglas fir communicating? Well, it turns out they were conversing not only in the language of carbon, but also nitrogen and phosphorus and water and defense signals and allelochemicals and hormones, information. And you know, I have to tell you, before me, scientists have thought that this below-ground mutualistic symbiosis called a mycorrhiza was involved. Mycorrhiza literally means fungus root. You see their reproductive organs when you walk through the forest. They're the mushrooms. The mushrooms, though, are just the tip of the iceberg, because coming out of those stems are fungal threads that form a mycelium, and that mycelium infects and colonizes the roots of all the trees and plants. And where the fungal cells interact with the root cells, there's a trade of carbon for nutrients. And that fungus gets those nutrients by growing through the soil and coating every soil particle. The web is so dense that there can be hundreds of kilometers of mycelium under a single footstep. And not only that, that mycelium connects different individuals in the forest. Individuals not only of the same species, but between species, like birch and fir. And it works kind of like the internet. You see, like all networks, mycorrhizal networks have nodes and links. We made this map by examining the short sequences of DNA of every tree and every fungal individual in a patch of Douglas fir forest. In this picture, the circles represent the Douglas fir, or the nodes, and the lines represent the interlinking fungal highways, or the links. The biggest, darkest nodes are the busiest nodes. We call those hub trees, or more fondly, mother trees, because it turns out that those hub trees nurture their young, the ones growing in the understory. And if you can see those yellow dots, those are the young seedlings that have established within the network of the old mother trees. In a single forest, a mother tree can be connected to hundreds of other trees. And using our isotope tracers, we have found that mother trees will send their excess carbon through the mycorrhizal network to the understory seedlings. And we've associated this with increased seedling survival by 4 times. Now, we know we all favor our own children. And I wondered, could Douglas fir recognize its own kin? Like Mama Grizzly and her cub? So we set about an experiment, and we grew mother trees with kin and stranger seedlings. And it turns out they do recognize their kin. Mother trees colonize their kin with bigger mycorrhizal networks. They send them more carbon below ground. They even reduce their own root competition to make elbow room for their kids. When mother trees are injured or dying, they also send messages, wisdom, onto the next generation of seedlings. So we've used isotope tracing to trace carbon moving from an injured mother tree down her trunk into the mycorrhizal network and into her neighboring seedlings. Not only carbon, but also defense signals. And these 2 compounds have increased the resistance of those seedlings to future stresses. So trees talk. Thank you. Through back and forth conversations, they increase the resilience of the whole community. It probably reminds you of our own social communities and our families. Well, at least some families. So let's come back to the initial point. Forests aren't simply collections of trees. They're complex systems with hubs and networks that overlap and connect trees and allow them to communicate, and they provide avenues for feedbacks and adaptation. And this makes the forest resilient. That's because there are many hub trees and many overlapping networks. But they're also vulnerable. Vulnerable not only to natural disturbances, like bark beetles that preferentially attack big old trees, but high-grade logging and clear-cut logging. You see, you can take out 1 or 2 hub trees, but there comes a tipping point. Because hub trees are not unlike rivets in an airplane. You can take out one or two and the plane still flies. But you take out one too many, or maybe that one holding on the wings, and the whole system collapses. So now how are you thinking about forests? Differently? Cool. I'm glad. So, remember I said earlier that I hoped that my research, my discoveries would change the way we practice forestry. Well, I want to take a check on that 30 years later here in Western Canada. This is about 100 kilometers to the west of us, just on the border of Banff National Park. That's a lot of clear cuts. In my estimation, there hasn't been a lot of change in the last 30 years. It's not so pristine. In 2014, the World Resources Institute reported that Canada in the past decade has had the highest forest disturbance rate of any country worldwide. And I bet you thought it was Brazil. In Canada, it's 3.6% per year. Now, by my estimation, that's about 4 times the rate that is sustainable. Now, massive disturbance at this scale is known to affect hydrological cycles, degrade wildlife habitat, and emit greenhouse gases back to the atmosphere, which creates more disturbance and more tree diebacks. Not only that, we're continuing to plant 1 or 2 species and weed out the aspens and birches. These simplified forests lack complexity, and they're really vulnerable to infections and bugs. And as climate changes, this is creating a perfect storm for extreme events like the massive mountain pine beetle outbreak that just swept across North America, or that mega fire in the last couple of months in Alberta. So I want to come back to my final question. Instead of weakening our forests, how can we reinforce them and help them deal with climate change? Well, you know, the great thing about forests as complex systems is they have enormous capacity to self-heal. In our recent experiments, we found with patch cutting and retention of hub trees and regeneration to a diversity of species and genes and genotypes, that these mycorrhizal networks, they recover really rapidly. So with this in mind, I want to leave you with 4 simple solutions. And we can't kid ourselves that these are too complicated to act on. First, we all need to get out in the forest. We need to reestablish local involvement in our own forests. You see, most of our forests now are managed using a one-size-fits-all approach. But good forest stewardship requires knowledge of local conditions. And second, we need to save our old-growth forests. These are the repositories of genes and mother trees and mycorrhizal networks. So this means less cutting. I don't mean no cutting, but less cutting. And third, when we do cut, we need to save the legacies, the mother trees and networks and the wood, the genes, so they can pass their wisdom on to the next generation of trees, so they can withstand the future stresses coming down the road. We need to be conservationists. And finally, fourthly and finally, we need to regenerate our forests with a diversity of species and genotypes and structures by planting and allowing natural regeneration. We have to give Mother Nature the tools she needs to use her intelligence to self-heal. And we need to remember that forests aren't just a bunch of trees competing with each other, they're super cooperators. So back to Jigs. Jigs' fall into the outhouse showed me this other world, and it changed my view of forests. I hope today to have changed how you think about forests. Thank you.
Is HelloFresh worth the price? Absolutely. In the beginning, I was doubtful too.
Okay. So, there we go.
Sitting in the dark.
Escape.
That was very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. I just found it on YouTube. So, Is there anything else that anybody wants to add to this?
No, but we want to thank you, Nikki, for organizing all of this. And we want to thank all the presenters who have come and shared their knowledge.
Very informative and very appropriate.
Thank you for all of you that came to this meeting, this event, and it will be posted on our website.
Okay,
Okay.
take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Bye.